Okay, welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video, and this is a bit of an odd one. My last two videos have been odd as well. I want to explain those, and I want to explain why I've got an episode of Friends on TV here. First of all, and you've seen the title, you're wondering, what? So, the last couple of videos I've been holding up these games, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the PlayStation 4, as well as Project Cross Zone 2 for the 3DS, and I've been saying 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5. What does that mean? Is that a review score? No. That's directly related to this video, and so is this Friends episode. So what's happening here in Friends is Ross blurted out at one point what celebrity he finds attractive and would like to sleep with, and that then caused a conversation to ensue where he made a list of 5 celebrities, and Isabella Rossellini is on that list. She shows up in the coffee shop here, and hilarity ensues. Now, my sister's a big Friends fan, and she and I would get into conversations like that. Who are 5 celebrities that you find attractive? Or words to that effect. I would make my list of 5, she'd make her list of 5 actors, and we would have these conversations quite a lot. And they would actually morph into video game characters. What video game characters do you find attractive? And that's actually what this video is about. I'm going to do 5 of these because, much like Ross, I have a list of 5 video game characters that I have an attraction for. I'm going to say they are my digital crush, to be classy about it. So these are the 5 characters that I find attractive. I'm going to do each one with its own individual video because they're all worthy of it. And the reason I held these things up and said 4 out of 5 is, of the 5 characters, this game has 4 of them. And this game has 4 of them. So that's what the 4 out of 5 references. So I'll be talking about those games as well. But I thought, let's start off. I'll start with number 5 on the list and just discuss at length why I like her and go from there. It's a bit embarrassing and maybe a little pervy, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm not alone in having this thought, so I'm gonna put my heart out on my sleeve and just go into detail here and pay tribute to each of these 5 characters. I'll do a separate video for each one over time. The other final reason I'm doing this is I've been meaning to talk about some of the games that these characters appear in, but I keep thinking I can't really go into a lot of detail until I discuss this weird infatuation I have for these characters. So that's another motivator for me as well. Anyway, enough embarrassment. Let's get on with it. Let's start off with the 5th lady on the list with this video. Number 5. Jill Valentine. So I first encountered Jill Valentine when I saw my friend playing the very first Resident Evil game on his PlayStation 1, and I thought, yeah, it looks alright. I'm not a survival horror guy. I don't like those types of games. I'm not particularly interested in zombies, so yeah, great. Okay, some people are into the Resident Evil thing, not me. And many years went by, and apparently the series did very, very well. They had the second game. Cool, great, could not care less. And I will never forget, it was in a magazine, I can't remember which one, but there was an ad for the next Resident Evil game, number 3, Nemesis. And they had this image as the little CGI'd version of Jill, and I thought to myself, ooh, oh, she's pretty. Hang on a second. Now I've got some interest in the game. But did I get Resident Evil 3 Nemesis? Heck no. I don't like zombie games. In the intervening years, I have actually picked it up. I've got it on my PlayStation TV, and I am enjoying it. And I will confess, the only reason I'm playing it is because of Jill and because of that really attractive outfit that she's wearing. I'm sorry, that's what this video is all about. Now, it's kind of interesting to note, Jill has actually attained a certain level of popularity among fans of Resident Evil and just gamers in general. In the very first game, there is a scene where she is nearly killed in the old mansion by a trap, a section where the roof of the room that she's in nearly squishes her to death. Luckily, her partner Barry pulls her out, and as a cheesy throw-off line, he says something like, "You nearly ended up as a Jill sandwich." And that little phrase has actually become something of an internet meme. People sometimes talk about Jill sandwiches, and in fact, in some of the future Resident Evil games, the developers at Capcom actually threw in little Easter eggs that mentioned things like Jill sandwiches. So she really became quite a popular character, and largely for the original uniform she's wearing with the green beret and the shoulder pads. And this is where this whole infatuation of mine kind of goes into bizarre territory. I really like Jill Valentine. I think she's a very attractive character, but strangely, not so much in the military outfit, only when she's got the blue shirt and the white little sweater thing tied around her waist, as in Resident Evil 3. Don't understand it. Very, very strange, but this is the direction you're going with me on this video. We're going into some strange finding video game characters attractive territory, so stick with me with this one. Jill may be number 5 on my list of these characters, but what's interesting about her is she's the only one who actually has much of a story to her. And at least within the canon of the actual video games related to her. Things happen to her, and some of them are rather tragic. Some of them are rather admirable. For example, after defeating the Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, she goes on to become the founding member of the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, which is a bit of a mouthful, BSAA, in the United Nations. And that then leads into Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles, which is that Wii light shooter game that I showed once. In fact, I actually talked about in a video response I did for T-Rex Space Station, one of his questions was, name a game you got for very little money. I think he said £5. I held up Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles, and in my response I said, there's a specific reason I got this, which I'm going to talk about in a future video. This is now that future video. The main reason I got The Umbrella Chronicles was because Jill Valentine is in it, and she's in the blue shirt and the white sweater outfit. So yeah, this is a complete confession of my guilt. I bought Resident Evil for the Wii, primarily so that I could see Jill once again in her outfit. But anyway, moving forward, then what happened, I forgot one little element of a bad thing that happened to Jill at the end of Nemesis. She actually got infected by the T-virus, the one throughout the entire Resident Evil series, the one that makes you turn into a zombie. She got a little bit infected with it. And that actually starts to play itself out toward the beginning of Resident Evil 5. But before we get to Resident Evil 5, I have to touch on the Resident Evil movies, specifically the performance of Jill Valentine in those films. Now, before I get to the main one, the very first time we saw her on film, I just wanted to touch upon the Resident Evil 5 storyline element that I'm just alluding to is actually mentioned or represented at the end of Resident Evil Afterlife. Right at the end where Alice looks like she's safe and then all the baddies roll in on these helicopter vehicles, we see Jill Valentine in blonde hair and a pink jumpsuit with this strange glowing thing on her chest. What's that all about? That's actually from Resident Evil 5, and having never followed the games when that movie was originally in the theater, I just thought, wait a minute, what happened to Jill Valentine? She looks radically different. And that's where we're going to get to with the Resident Evil 5 stuff. That is the tragic part of her character. However, I'm not going to go there just yet, because it's definitely worth spending some time talking about, and I hope I say her name right, Sienna Guillory? I'm sorry. We'll just call her Sienna. Sienna's performance of Jill Valentine is spot on. With the second Resident Evil movie, Apocalypse, Alice's adventures continued, and this time she teamed up with Jill Valentine. And Sienna does an amazing intro. She's walking around ready to take command of the situation. She is very much the embodiment of like a female action hero character. And what's really nice is she strikes a great balance between being tough as nails with her bullets flying, slaying zombies left, right, and center, but she's also got a great amount of sex appeal and just cool factor. I cannot speak with enough praise towards Sienna's performance as Jill Valentine in this movie. I'll never forget some interviews she did just before the movie was released, where Sienna was saying that she would play Resident Evil 3 just to get ready to play the character, to learn what she was like. And she really loved the outfit, as I do myself. And she would leave the controller sitting, and Jill in the game would kind of lean from side to side, impatiently waiting for the next input from the game. I've tried to do that myself, but it doesn't seem to do it for me. So I don't know if Sienna was thinking of another game or not, but regardless, Sienna was saying that helped her in her performance. She just thought, yeah, this girl's ready to go. She's got her guns toting and she's ready to start kicking some zombie rear end. And I just really, really like that. I think she brought that to the performance in Apocalypse. She is very heroic, and it's just an amazing spot-on performance. Absolutely thumbs up for her performance in Apocalypse. When they came to make the third Resident Evil movie, apparently Jill Valentine was supposed to join the cast and travel with Alice on the various adventures that were proceeding. But apparently Sienna was actually busy and involved in a few other projects and couldn't actually make the third film in a way that actually worked to their advantage, because they were able to maintain Jill Valentine's character to more closely parallel what happened to her in the games. As I said, by the time Resident Evil 5, the video game, happened, some tragic events occurred for Jill Valentine's character, and Sienna not being available for the third film actually worked to the advantage of the filmmakers. Toward the end of Resident Evil Afterlife, as I say, there was that scene where suddenly she's in a pink jumpsuit with a weird crab thing on her chest, and in Resident Evil Retribution, we actually get to find out far more what happened there. And that does parallel what happened in Resident Evil 5. At the beginning of the game, Chris Redfield sees a tombstone that says, "Here lies Jill Valentine," and it was implied that because of a fight that she had with Wesker, she perished, and that was the end of her character. But in Resident Evil 5, the video game, there is a sequence where Wesker appears in front of Chris, and he pulls the hood off this character that's been behind him all this time, revealing Jill Valentine. But now she's turned blonde, and she's not herself. She's kind of weirdly zombieized. And in the game, Chris has to then fight Jill. And very much like that, in Resident Evil Retribution, Alice has to fight Jill in this outfit with this thing on her chest. What happened in the games, at least, when she is defeated, Chris does manage to release her of the control that Wesker had her under, and then Chris continues on his adventure. You can actually play a little further mission as Jill now that she has recovered, and from my knowledge, that is the final bit that we've seen from Jill Valentine within the games. There have been some spin-offs such as Resident Evil Revelations for the 3DS. She's also appeared as a multiplayer character in Raccoon City, I think it is, which was not very well received. But unfortunately, Jill has kind of vanished from the games, at least for now. But I think that her disappearance from the end of Umbrella Chronicles and then not appearing in 4 at all and returning in Resident Evil 5 means she's probably going to come back. She is an extremely popular character. For the 2002 Resident Evil remake that came out on the GameCube, Capcom decided that they wanted to make Jill a little cuter. The quote being that her action and atmosphere has charm. I don't see why, because she's in a world full of zombies, but okay, that's a Capcom thing, I guess. What's interesting is they actually decided on a Canadian model, a lady called Julia Voth. She would become kind of the basis of Jill Valentine's appearance in future games. I just thought that was really, really cool to have a Canadian representing one of my favorite female characters in video games. That's awesome. Yay, Canada. And I also noticed that for the Resident Evil remake, there is an ability you can do. If you go through the entire game and restart, you can actually unlock Jill's blue top and white sweater outfit if you do a certain series of things. And there is, in addition to doing this for the remake on the GameCube, there's also a way to do that on the Wii, one that I have found and I've actually immediately unlocked. It's the way I prefer to play Resident Evil, and it's also possible on the Resident Evil that was redone on the HD version. I only found that out because I was watching YouTube. Somebody happened to be playing the Resident Evil HD remake with Jill in her blue outfit, and I thought, wait a minute, that's the one from Resident Evil 3. How did you do that? And then through tracking through cheat codes and various sources online, I discovered, oh, okay, beat the game once, you can unlock this outfit. Or if you have a Wii, there's a way to do it rather quickly. And I will do that in a future video because, to me, that is the only way to play Resident Evil. At the Portland Retro Gaming Expo last year, I actually saw a crew that were doing some Resident Evil cosplay, and I very sheepishly asked the Jill Valentine, would she mind posing for a picture? I was very, very pleased when she humored me. It was a great moment for me. Now, let me finish off my Jill Valentine video with a little footnote here. A couple of years ago, I bought Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the Vita because I know it has, as I mentioned before, 4 out of the 5. And as soon as I put the cartridge into my PSTV, it said, do you want to keep the save data or do you want to start again so that you can earn all the trophies? And I thought, yeah, I totally want to start again. And then my first step was to go and play as Jill Valentine, but unfortunately you had to download that because it was a piece of DLC. I was really, really sad and a little angry with myself after I found out that due to the license agreement between the Marvel folks and the Capcom folks, you could no longer download any DLC for that Vita version of the game. So here I was, I had just deleted save data that might have actually had Jill Valentine on it, and now I couldn't actually download her again for my game. I was a bit annoyed at that, but consider it a lesson learned. Luckily, that PlayStation 4 release now has Jill once again, and yes, you can play her in the blue outfit with the white sweater, and it even has that little glowing crab thing on her chest as part of her tragic story. So there we go. Yes, that is number 5 on my list. Jill Valentine. It's a bit embarrassing, but you know what? I'm unable to talk about some of the games that these 5 characters are in because I haven't talked about the characters themselves. So I thought, all right, it's time to talk about this list and give it its proper dues. Speaking of giving proper dues, I'm clearly not the only one who feels this way because some of this footage that you're seeing and some of the stuff I've used in this video is actually combined from tribute music videos that other YouTubers have done for Jill Valentine. I'm going to put a link down below to their full work so that they get the appropriate credit. I think they've done a bang-up job, and I'm just glad to see that I'm not the only one who thinks that Jill is rather dreamy. Anyway, so yeah, who's your digital crush? Leave comments down below. And until the next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole as well. Here's a little hint about number 4 on the list.